Morning everybody, and welcome to the most famous circuit in Italy. Yes, we are back at Monza for the penultimate round of the 2021 Euroformula Open Championship. The cars have just come out onto what is, for the moment, a dry track, but we have got threatening weather, not for today, but for tomorrow afternoon, where we are expecting heavy thunderstorms. You can see a few cars still parked down in pit lane. Enzo Scianti, Enzo Trulli, they've made their way out onto the circuit. The clock is ticking for this half-hour session. This is the penultimate round of the 2021 Championship. If you're just joining us at this stage of the season, 2 weeks ago, we raced at the fabulous Red Bull Ring in Austria, and we come here to the Monza circuit, which just 2 weeks ago hosted the Italian Grand Prix, as we look at the championship leader, Cameron Dass, the American, who has a single-point lead in the championship over the English driver, Louis Foster. We'll get to the points throughout the course of the weekend. Cameron Dass, 273, Louis Foster, 272. As we look at Enzo Scianti out on circuit, has a teammate for this weekend, does Team Drivex. The Texan, the second, or the lone Texan here this weekend, Enzo Scianti, we're delighted to say, is being joined by the driver from Chile, Nicolas Pino, 78, as you look at Philippe Caminaz, 14 Motor Park. So qualifying underway here on a dry circuit, just gently warming up the Michelin tyres. Ian Salvestrin with you in commentary, delighted to be joined once again by Ida Wood, who's just made his way up from pit lane. It is a fair hike, I can tell you. Ida, this will be a fascinating session as we lead in to race 1 later this afternoon and races 2 and 3 tomorrow, which we expect to be on a wet circuit.
Yeah, yesterday we had quite a lot of sunshine throughout our free practice and test sessions, but the cloud is pretty much all around the circuit this morning. It's going to be a little harder to get the temperature into the tyres.
You look at the Chilean Nicolas Pino for Team Drivex out on circuit, had a big crash in the free practice or the free test on Thursday. The Drivex team did a superb job to repair the car, 78 out on circuit. At the moment, joining his Texan teammate, Enzo Scianti. So the 4 sets of Michelin tyres, they have to manage these well as Shembolik Bashi goes through. And you look at Casper Stevenson, car 25 for the 2-car Van Amersfoort Racing team this weekend. But with the rain tomorrow, they may well gamble and just throw even 3 sets of slicks in to the qualifying session here this morning. As you would know, with the late date change with the FIA Formula 3 Championship, which is taking place also this weekend at Sochi in Russia. Incidentally, we say a very good morning to our friends watching on live from the nation we once knew as the Soviet Union. Jack Crawford, 3rd in the championship, not here this weekend. And with that, virtually has 0 chance of taking the title for 2021. You just got a glimpse of Christian Mansell, the young Australian who is back in the Euroformula Open Championship, not with Carlin, who is racing with in the British Formula 3 Championship. Actually, I'll correct myself, the GB3 Championship, of course. Christian, who made a stunning debut at Spa, taking a 4th place in Euroformula. He's racing with Motor Park this weekend. Just getting back to the FIA Formula 3 Championship taking place in Russia, an unfortunate last-minute date change. So that means Rafa Villagomez, Zdenek Chovanec, Roman Stanek, and Jack Crawford are not here, but we do have new teams, new entries, new drivers for this penultimate round of the championship, Christian Mansell being one of them. And then for the season final at Barcelona in 1 month from now, exactly to the day as I check my calendar, there will be even further new teams and drivers on the grid. 2022 is looking great. Incidentally, the 2022 calendar has just been released, not only for Euroformula, but also for GT Open. But for the moment, let's concentrate on qualifying. Nicolas Pino from Chile, the 16-year-old South American, joins Team Drivex. And after that big crash on Thursday, was actually 6th quickest throughout much of practice yesterday. Going through the Lesmo 2 turn, down through Saraglio. It used to be a kink where they would have to back off. Back in the day, of course, Monza next year celebrates 100 years of motor racing, a centenary of one of the 3 oldest permanent motor racing circuits in the world. Saraglio, it used to be basically a chicane. Now, of course, it's flat, as Nicolas Pino is about to complete his first flying lap. The young Chilean down the back straight into the newly named Michele Alboreto Parabolica. sounds magnificent. To these Euroformula cars, of course, the HWA Mercedes-based engine of Nicholas. Car 78 for Team DriveX. We'll see what he does as he comes across the line. That won't be good enough for pole, but for the moment, the South American is in position 1.
He's now got traffic up ahead of him, Louis Foster coming out the pits. Blue flags are being waved because obviously Foster is on his outlap. That's going to compromise Pino, but he has done 2 flying laps in a row. And these Michelin tyres, you know, you can do 3 fast laps in a row, but then you've got a temperature cycle, and quite often it's about finding gaps in the traffic and slipstreams as well. Monza is almost the perfect track for Formula 3 style racing. Got the Dallara 320 here, which is based on the previous regulations of Formula 3, and they kind of evolved that, made it super lightweight, added the halo for safety, but of course made sure that it can be a great racing car for drivers to essentially overtake each other in. So we're going to Brad Benavides going down pit straight. The American actually made his debut in Euroformula for single-seater racing a few years ago. He's returned to the championship. This is his 2nd weekend with the Carlin team. Teammate to Enzo Trilli, who we're looking at just now, who's currently giving his teammate a tow. So a few of the teams, when I've been going down the pit lane, said they are going to work together and get their drivers to essentially tow each other around, then swap places each lap. But some have already had fallings out in free practice about what strategies they can use. So potentially we're going to be seeing drivers from one team kind of tag onto a driver from another team, try to get the slipstream down the straights, and that's worth at least 0.4 of a second per lap here, so it does make a big difference.
The Carlin team, that is interesting because they did try it in Thursday free practice and basically decided to sort of go against the tactic, but for the moment it is working. Brad, born in Miami, Florida, USA, one of 3 Americans racing in the field, of course, this weekend with the absence of Crawford, along with Enzo Shanti. Brad Benavides. And of course the championship leader Cameron Dass down the back straight. There is Nazi Martzman in the fluorescent yellow and black car, who took a sensational win at the Red Bull Ring 2 weeks ago. We'll see what Brad can do as he comes across the line this time. The racing, as you say, Ida, will be absolutely spectacular. Formula 3 never fails to disappoint here at Monza, and you can see the rear wing. It is virtually flat like an ironing board. They are doing 264 kilometres an hour, ideally with the slipstream, which is impressive, given that these F3 spec cars are only pushing out around about 260 horsepower, but ferociously quick in a straight line.
Yeah, rather than adding power, we add lightness to this car to make it very quick and very nimble as well. Now, generating downforce, that's quite a difficulty when you've got a car so streamlined as this, because it's punching a hole through the air, you've got really low drag coefficient, but when you come to the corners, you also need that grip in the air, pushing down on the car rather than going past it. And that's where you sometimes need a bit of a setup compromise. One of the teams that's really good at this actually is Double R Racing. I think in 2019, Linus Lundqvist took pole at Hockenheim, which also has a very long straight. They're very good. Louis Foster won at Spa-Francorchamps, I believe, in 2020. So Josh Mason is their only car this weekend, which means he doesn't have anyone to kind of slipstream with, but he actually set the fastest lap in free practice too yesterday. He set it at the very end, and he kind of broke away from the train of cars that were slipstreaming each other. So he knows that this car is very good with a low downforce setup around this track. So he could be an outside bet for pole today.
That's very true. He will be missing his teammate Zdenek Chovanec, racing in the final round of the FIA Formula 3 Championship in Russia. Josh Mason, as you say, Ida, was quickest yesterday with 1:44.493. But Brad Benavides goes to the top last time round, a 1:43.549. That's a quick lap. His first quick lap. Look at them bunch up on the back straight. We have seen this oh so often, as they look for clear air and look for a tow at the same time. The teams, the engineers telling us they need about a 2-second break. Josh Mason, will see what he can do as he comes across the line. This one for P1, down in pit lane. Casper Stevenson for Van Amersfoort Racing. So it's Benavides from Mason, 1:43.5 versus Mason on a 1:43.8 now. Brad dives down into pit lane. The new set of Michelin slicks. For the moment, the American on pole position as you ride on board with the French driver Richard Degeris for Team Motorpark.
Yeah, and Richard is currently down, quite far down the order in 9th place, but Motorpark obviously has 3 cars, and then you've got Crypto Tower Racing Team as well, so he should be able to get almost a double slipstream here. Even if the driver ahead doesn't want to cooperate, they're going to be pulled along by any other cars ahead of them, and we're going to look at Louis Foster, who seems to be dragging him around at the moment. Foster is fighting for the title here, so he really does need to make sure he gets great results in all 3 races of the weekend. And because the race 3 grid is actually set by the fastest lap of race 1 and race 2, you want to be sure you do have that single lap pace in clean air. And when you can do it, it's the best time to check is in qualifying.
We watch down into the Ascari chicane. Brad Benavides down in pit lane. He's the top American at the moment as you look at the second. And now right on board with Richard de Geras. Incidentally, Chembolik Bashi had a time to lead it. It would have put him 6th overall, but he's now sitting back in position 11 for all our fans watching on live from Istanbul. Your boy with a lot of work to do, Chembolik Bashi, P11, down in pit lane. Richard, I should say, comes across the line. We'll check the time of the French driver, P3.
And potentially that lap might not count because going through the final corner, he did run over the white lines on the outside entirely. All 4 wheels were on the green painted runoff area, and now he's got traffic, so I don't think he's going to be able to improve this next time by. He's got a Van Amersfoort car. He's actually got 2 of them. And I think he's trying to let him through there, but that's actually compromised him going through to the next corner.
Bolik Bashi just coming out on a new set of Michelin tyres. So the order at the moment you can see to the left of your screen. Brad still in pit lane, still in position 1 for Carlin Racing. Josh Mason P2 also in the pits. Richard, he's backed off out of this lap. Enzo P4, so 2 cars from Carlin inside the top 4, and then Christian Mansell, the young Australian, P5 ahead of Enzo Shanti. It's a good performance from the Lone Star Texan here this weekend with the absence of Jack. And it's Casper Stevenson, Cameron Dass down in position 8. We'll keep an eye on car 28. That is Louis Foster, 2nd in the championship. So the 2 championship contenders, we'll see where they qualify. Richard de Geras just gives a little bit of a toe to Louis Foster. Nicolas Pinot in P10 down into the Ascari chicane.
Now, they actually waved blue flags there at Richard de Geras for Louis Foster, but de Geras was doing a fairly quick first sector, and also in the second sector as well. So you can understand if drivers do ignore these flags. Obviously, the marshals are there just to essentially tell you that a car is behind when they're waving those flags. But if you do ignore them several times, you potentially get a penalty. And actually, track limits violations in this session will be penalised as well. If you break track limits too many times, you'll be handed a 10-second stop go. So you have to go into the pit lane, stop just at the entrance for 10 seconds, and then you're allowed back out on track. So drivers do have to be extra careful in this session. There's, you know, the stewards, the marshals, they're all watching them, particularly on track limits and blocking.
Natsim Atzman, the Malaysian, on your screen, about to complete a lap. Brad Benavides, incidentally, still on pole position, has just exited pit lane. Josh Mason has done likewise. The American and the Brit run 1-2 with just over 11 minutes remaining. We'll see if Richard pulls in at the end of this lap. The French driver from the Reunion Islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean, position 3. After he was quick at Red Bull Ring. I was going to say a disappointing run last time out in Austria. He was quick, but just didn't put it together. Wasn't so quick in practice, but he's looking good this morning.
And he also struggled with the preloading of the clutch, which is essentially what cost him in the races at the very start. And obviously that's not an issue in qualifying. We've just had another car exit the pits. Francesco Simonazzi, I do believe, has potentially gone out on track now. So we've got BVM Racing returning this weekend. It's a local team from Italy. They were last in the championship in 2017. They've actually raced their car already at Imola in basically a club series race. Sorry, F2000 Italian trophy, but
it's a great championship.
Yeah, it's a great championship, but it's not the most professional. But Simonazzi, you know, a lot of anticipation there, so we do hope to see him on track. Richard de Geras and Louis Foster still staying on track together. Now, Louis Foster would ideally want to stay with someone who's roughly at the same pace as him, so when they're swapping positions to get that slipstream, he knows he's not going to be losing time. But by staying down there, he's currently in 8th place on the timesheet with 10 minutes to go.
Not a bad lap this from Richard de Geras. May well put it on pole position in just a few seconds' time. Runs very wide at the exit of the Alboreto Parabolica. So we'll see if it stays. For the moment, it is still Brad Benavides who flashes across the line. Well, he was in position 1. Richard de Geras goes to the top with a 1:43.205. 10 minutes remaining in qualifying for the penultimate round of the 2021 Euroformula Open Championship. Richard de Geras, provisional pole. It's been deleted. Brad goes back to the top.
Yeah, and Chembolik Bashi has had almost every single one of his laps deleted for track limits violations. He's currently 6.2 seconds off the pace. Now, obviously, he's successfully turned his simulator racing talent into the real world action, but at a circuit like this, that kind of wild driving style isn't useful when you've got corners that you need to be very flat and very smooth on, such as the Michele Alboreto Parabolica. Here is a replay of Rashad Dejera, who's currently in third place, but we do know he's capable of going faster, going through the first chicane. So we'd obviously rather see him going through the final corner, because that's where he's lost his lap, and he's clearly making up the time elsewhere. Still no sign of Simonazzi on track, which is a great shame, because that means we've only got 13 cars provisionally starting at the moment.
Yes, we are looking forward to the return of Francesco Simonazzi, car 84. Just getting back to Rashad Dejera, fortunately for him, he is still in position 3. Brad Benavides in P1 at the moment as you look at Louis Foster go down the back straight. Louis second in the championship on 272 points, 9th on the grid at the moment. Pulls over to try and break the tow from the cars behind him. The slipstream, the ideal hypothetical slipstream, worth around about 7 to 8 tenths of a second. So Louis will see if the English driver does improve as he comes across the line in position 8 at the moment. This looks good for the Brit. A 143.185 goes provisional pole position. Does Louis Foster. Back to Rashad Dejera. This is why he went very wide. I do hope, Ida, that we do not speak about the track limits too much this weekend. Let's just say once upon a time, that was self-policing. It used to be grass.
Yeah, and they often have these banana curbs there as well, but it's simply too dangerous to have them with chassis that are this stiff and with the sports cars that have a really low ride height as well. So we don't have them sometimes F1 races with them. And obviously Alex Peroni a few years ago had a bit of an airborne shunt over the top of one of those. But we've already seen the marbles actually building up at the exit final corner. We've had Max Formula here. Had quite a lot of heavy cars that are chewing through the tyres, and that's made it very slippy at the exit of the corner. And Rashad gets a little bit slippy there. Simonazzi still not on track at the moment, so great shame, because after yesterday's practice, he was really, pumped for today. Talked how much he loved the car and the combination on this circuit, but sadly we haven't seen it. They have shaken down the engine. They've done all the testing they need to make sure the car is race ready. But potentially it's just when it comes to it, maybe it just hasn't turned on, as these things sometimes do. Louis Foster still working exceptionally well with Rashad Dejera. Now, I wouldn't say Rashad would normally be, contending for pole, but he's working very well here to actually maximise the pace he does have by working with Louis to trade with the slipstream. You can see one of the Carlin cars behind Enzo and Brad have kind of split their strategies, and now Enzo's down in 9th, Brad's still in 3rd. We do know Enzo's got the pace as well, because he topped free practice overall on Friday.
Cullum Racing are looking good here this weekend. We'll see what Rashad does. Well, he just keeps it on the circuit still. Well, on the 3rd row of the grid for the moment. We'll check the time off the French driver back to P3. That's a better performance from Rashad. We know he's quick. Coming from the FIA Formula 3 Championship, he actually did set a fastest lap. Don't ask me which round it was, but he is a quick driver. We do know that. And he's put the number 10 car up into P3. Cimbolek Bashi shoots up into P4. The dying stages of Euroformula Open qualifying. Francesco Simonazzi still has not appeared. One of 2 Italians along with Enzo Trulli. It will be a back of the grid start almost certainly for Francesco Simonazzi in car 84. Fantastic to have the BVM racing team back in Euroformula Open. As we hone right in on car 28, the championship leader, Cameron Dass, gets on the gas as he exits the Alboreto Parabolica. We'll see what the American does. He's close to the top of the times. He comes across the line and goes P1, a 143 dead. That is super quick from the American. Atzman just behind him. The Malaysian down in P9, so Cameron Dass P1, Louis Foster P2, not only in qualifying in the dying stages, but also that's how they run in the championship as well.
Yeah, and you can see the advantage Das made there. In the middle sector, he was faster than anyone, and obviously he's got clean air ahead of him, so there's nothing to compromise any of his lines. But in that final sector, he lost a tenth or two, I think, to Foster and Rashad Dejera, because they were able to slipstream each other down those final 2 straights, whereas Cameron has not. So 2 very different strategies at play with our 2 main title contenders, Cameron and Louis, and currently they're 1-2, so clearly it's working.
Christian Mansell, the Australian, who rejoins us for his 2nd crack at Euroformula Open. P3, that's impressive. Driving for Team Motor Park, replacing Jack Crawford for the round this weekend. Brad Benavides slips back to P4. The time for Christian from just outside Newcastle to the north of Sydney. Christian, P3 at the moment with a 1:43.310. A stunning fourth place on debut in Euroformula earlier on in the season. Natim Artsman on your screen at the moment, a stunning debut for the Malaysian 2 weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring. Incidentally, we have had 7 different winners in Euroformula in 2021. We may well have 8 this weekend. Although, having said that, the championship contenders run 1-2 in qualifying. The dying stages of qualifying here at Monza, the penultimate round of the 2021 Euroformula Open Championship. Atzman is about to come across the line. This is Christian Mansell. Doesn't improve, a 1:43.424. Atzman in P5, just a few hundred metres behind in the background. Mason P6, there's the order to the left of your screen. So it is Das P1 with a 43 dead. Louis Foster P2, Mansell P3, Brad Benavides, who was in position 1 for the early part of the session, back to P4, 3:33 left on the clock in qualifying. They throw a set of Michelin slicks at all of these cars in an attempt to take pole position for the penultimate round of the championship. Richard De Geris, car 10, just keeps it on the circuit at the exit of the Alboreto Parabolica. We'll see what the French driver does. It's a purple first sector, looks good in sector 2, keeps it tight, runs up to the line. Richard De Geris
does go third place. Now you could see him down both of those straights looking in his mirrors because he knows he's got 4 cars behind him. He wants to be at the back of the queue rather than the front. We still haven't seen Simonazzi on track, so Das is using the benefit of the slipstream now with Christian Mansell. Fastest in the first sector, fastest in the second sector as well. So he's played this perfectly, only working with 1 car, whereas his rivals at the moment are in queues of 3 or 5, and that's making it a lot more difficult. Louis Foster still on track, isn't improving. Cameron Das potentially on for pole position here. Now, obviously, he can't let Mansell pass, so he's going to be going a little slower than the car behind down these last 2 straights. But it does mean he has clear air, and he just keeps the front right wheel inside the white line. So that is going to be a lap time that does count as we see him come to the line.
Sideways on the exit of the Parabolica, goes under the 43s. A 42.797 as Enzo Trulli rockets up into position 2, the Italian in the background. That's a superb lap from the second generation racer, a 43.163. It's an outside front row of the grid start for the young Italian for Carlin Racing at the moment. There's his father, Jarno, the winner of the 2004 Monaco Formula 1 Grand Prix, watching his 16-year-old son take grid 2 for the moment, provisionally with less than 2 minutes remaining at the Temple of Speed. This is Monza, the dying stages of qualifying. Das P1, Trulli P2, and Louis Foster in third place at the moment.
Yeah, Trulli's got a double slipstream here. Used that to his advantage on the last lap because he was around 2 or 3 tenths slower in the first sector, but made up that gap by essentially being sucked towards the 2 cars in front down the long straights. Louis Foster is improving. He's just gone second fastest, 3 tenths slower than Cameron Das overall, but fastest in the middle sector. So he is towing the cars behind him around the track at the moment. Josh Mason, third in that queue. He was improving earlier. He's now shuffled down to 8th in the order. It's a strategy game here. You want to be at the back so you get more advantage with slipstream, but you also want to be at the front because then there's no messing around. There's no cars that are going to be blocking your way. So Louis Foster has all the cards on the table here in this group of cars on track. And Cameron Das doing the same with Enzo Trulli further around the track. 50 seconds to go, so 2 laps left for everyone.
The dying stages of qualifying here at Monza. The order is Das, Foster, not only in the championship, but also in qualifying here this morning. Enzo just drops back to third ahead of Brad Benavides, Richard in P5. Christian Mansell, P6, Atzman 7, Mason, Stevenson, Chembolik Bashi, Shanti Caminiaz and Nicolas Pino. The South American on debut, everyone on circuit with the exception of Francesco Simonazzi. 20 seconds left on the clock. They go for pole in the penultimate round of the 2021 championship.
And Enzo Trulli just improved their slipstream past Christian Mansell to go into third place. Louis Foster allowing Rashad Jarrett's past the end of the lap. So now it's getting strategic, only telling the driver alongside you that you're going to let them have the forward line. So now Foster's got the slipstream on him, but he's actually pulled out.
He's backed out.
He's conceded.
So we are watching Richard De Geris with the checkered flag. The French driver in P4. It's an outside second row start at the moment for car 10. We'll see where he comes across the line, turns into the Alboreto Parabolica, keeps it on the circuit just. Does the French driver, accelerates up to the line. He's lost 4 tenths in the early part of this lap. Will he improve some positions? The answer is no. P4 at the moment. Josh Mason finishes the session P8. Brad Benavides back in P6. As we watch the DriveX team cars, there's Enzo Shanti. That Texan P11 at the moment. Foster has abandoned that lap. He's P2. He will not take pole position. It's looking good for the championship leader from the USA. Cameron Dass, Enzo Shanti, P11. Enzo Truly, Christian Mansell to complete their laps down the back straight. There's Enzo. There's Christian just behind. Can the two rookies take a sensational pole position in the dying stages? They look good. In the best part of this lap, Christian Mansell in car 52 accelerates out of the parabolica. Cameron Dass pulls into pit lane on provisional pole. Mansell aborts the lap as well. As does Enzo Truly. Cameron Dass, the championship leader, has taken pole position for the penultimate round of the 2021 Euroformula Open Championship. Here at the home of the Italian Grand Prix, you look at car 28 from the United States of America. Enzo Truly pulls into pit lane behind. Philip Caminias just crosses the line. Incidentally, the pole in P12 behind Enzo Shanti, ahead of Nicholas Pinot. And Francesco Simonazzi will have to start from the back of the grid as you look at the young Italian, a superb qualifying run. For the 16-year-old Enzo Truly, P3 with a 143.101. Carlin Racing back into contention this weekend. Louis Foster, 1 point behind in the 2021 championship and 0.2 of a second behind the American in qualifying.
But then it'd be an extra point for pole position for Cameron. So that
yeah,
gap,
make that 2.
Yeah, it does now change.
Well picked. So Cameron Dass on your screen takes pole position, and as you correctly point out, Ida, an extra point, so it's now a 2-point advantage. This is the grid after a fantastic qualifying session here at Monza. Cameron Dass P1 with a 42.797, the only driver under the 43-second bracket. Louis Foster P2, outside front row start. Enzo Truly P3 for the young Italian for Carlin Racing. Richard, good recovery after having those laps deleted. P4. Christian Mansell, the Australian, P5. Brad Benavides, the second American, P6, also for Carlin Racing. Atzman, Mason, Stevenson, Chimbolik Bashi, Shanti, Caminias, Nicholas Pinot, and not setting a time. Starting from the back of the grid will be Francesco Simonazzi. Let's go down to pit lane to speak to the pole sitter, Cameron Dass.
Cameron Dass, back to the forefront here in Monza. How was it?
It was great, yeah. It's good to have the first pole of the season. It's been a long time coming. Made a few mistakes along the way, but I think we perfectly executed the strategy for quali, and yeah, I can't complain at all. It's a really good lap.
And it comes, of course, at a very timely moment in the championship.
Of course, yeah, every bit of points we can get and track position we can get is going to help a big time in the championship run, so couldn't be happier. Many thanks to Motor Park for giving me a great car.
How you see the races this afternoon and then tomorrow?
I mean, it's Monza, so anything can happen. I mean, we were doing some racing practice yesterday in free practice, and it was a fight all the way through, so I think it's going to be really fun. But I'm just going to enjoy it, and I'm sure it'll end up well.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cameron Dass, the American, takes pole position for the penultimate round of the championship. Thank you for joining us. Join us at 10 minutes to 4 local time for race 1, the penultimate round of the Euroformula Open Championship. We'll see you this afternoon.